For me, the best player who ever played football touched the ball is Ronaldinho. So no one can touch him for me as football-wise. Even if they score 1,000,000 goals or they win 1,000 Ballon d'Ors, Ronaldinho is the best.
There has never been another footballer like him. Magic touch, dancing feet, and the most infectious part is his smile. This is the story of a man who made the world's best defenders look like beginners.
Ronaldinho, no? Y arriba Coloccini. De unidor Ronaldinho, que ha fet un barreta.
Ronaldinho! Ronaldinho! Ronaldinho!
Para Valencia.
Hola Ronaldinho, que se de su socó.
Ahí podemos ver el magnífico.
Ronaldo de Assis Moreira was born on March 21, 1980, in Porto Alegre, Brazil. His father João was a shipyard worker who played amateur football for a local club on weekends. His brother Roberto was 9 years older and already a professional footballer at Grêmio, one of Porto Alegre's two big clubs. Football was not a hobby in the Moreira household. It was the language the family spoke. When Roberto signed for Grêmio, the club gave the family a villa. Better house, better life. And then in 1989, when Ronaldinho was just 8 years old, his father drowned in the swimming pool at that new home. He lost his first coach, his first hero, at 8 years old. What filled that gap was the street, and specifically, futsal, a small-sided game played on a court about the size of a basketball court, with a smaller and heavier ball and fewer players. No space, no room for mistakes. Every single touch matters. Every decision has to be instant. And in that tight space, with defenders inches away from you, you either learn to move the ball faster than the human brain can process, or you lose it every time. Ronaldinho spent his childhood on those courts in Porto Alegre. He was not just practicing, he was inventing, because the space gave him no other option. He explained it once to a journalist from London. He said he loved to dribble the ball for as long as possible, because if you are playing for 5 hours, you do not want to score goals all the time. He wanted to make something happen, something nobody had seen before. At 13 years old, Ronaldinho became a local legend for scoring 23 goals in a single youth match, a game that ended 23-0. Grêmio signed him immediately. He made his professional debut in 1998. And those streets had already done their most important work. Because everything Ronaldinho ever did on a football pitch, every elastico, every no-look pass, every dribble that left world-class defenders sitting on the grass staring at the sky, was built on those futsal courts. The tight space trained his feet to move faster than his opponent's brains. By the time he reached European football, he was operating on a completely different frequency to everyone around him. Defenders had no idea what was coming, because nothing like it had ever come before. He arrived at PSG in 2001. Europe got its first proper look, but it was in 2002 that the whole planet saw it at the same time. And it started with a free kick that nobody, including Ronaldinho himself, has ever fully explained. 2002 World Cup. Quarter-final. Brazil versus England. Shizuoka, Japan. England were a proper side. Beckham, Owen, Sol Campbell, Rio Ferdinand, one of the best England squads in a generation. The game was tight. Michael Owen scored first. Rivaldo equalized right on the stroke of halftime. And then, in the second half, Ronaldinho stepped up for a free kick, 35 yards from goal, wide on the right touchline. The angle was all wrong for a shot. Every single person in that stadium assumed he was going to cross it. David Seaman, England's goalkeeper, stepped slightly off his line, hands up, ready to collect. The ball sailed over his head and into the far corner. England were out. Brazil were through to the semi-finals, on their way to winning a record 5th World Cup. Clive Tildesley, on commentary, could only manage, Ronaldinho has scored. David Seaman is caught cold. Seaman said afterward he just felt it was going to go somewhere it did not. Ronaldinho later admitted that when he hit the ball, he wanted to shoot for goal, but maybe not exactly where it ended up. His Brazil teammate Rivaldo insisted it was completely intentional, that Ronaldinho had studied Seaman's tendency to step forward before free kicks and exploited it on purpose. The debate has never been settled, and that is exactly the point. Ronaldinho was the only player on earth where you genuinely could not be sure whether what you just watched was genius or instinct. Every free kick, every pass, every touch carried the real possibility of something the sport had never seen before. Brazil won the World Cup. Ronaldinho was named in the tournament's best 11. And Barcelona were watching. Real Madrid were watching too. They had the chance to sign him from PSG first. And they said no. Club sources reportedly described Ronaldinho as too ugly to represent Real Madrid's brand. Barcelona stepped in and paid 30 million. Every spare euro the debt-ridden club had. The biggest gamble in their recent history. It was the best decision they ever made. Ronaldinho arrived at Barcelona in 2003. And what happened over the next 4 years is why defenders still talk about him the way they do. To understand why those defenders were helpless, you need to understand the Elastico. The Elastico, also called the flip-flap, came directly from those futsal courts in Porto Alegre. The move involves pushing the ball one way with the outside of the foot and then immediately snapping it back the other way with the inside. In futsal, where defenders are right on top of you, you develop the ability to change the ball's direction faster than any human brain can react. Defenders would commit their weight to one side, and by the time their brain sent the message to their feet to adjust, the ball was already gone. Ronaldinho had taken it the other way, and the defender was on the floor. He brought that move to La Liga, against Sergio Ramos, against Ivan Helguera, against defenders who had prepared for every trick in the book. None of them could stop it, because it was not in any book they had read. It was something invented on courts they had never played on. In the 2004-05 season, Ronaldinho produced 13 goals and 16 assists in 42 games. Barcelona won La Liga, their first title in 6 years. Ronaldinho won the FIFA World Player of the Year award. He won it again in 2005, the first Barcelona player to win it back-to-back. He was not just the best player at his club, he was the best player on earth. And then came the night that proved it, in a way no stat ever could. November 19th, 2005. Barcelona, at the Santiago Bernabeu, La Liga, the most hostile ground in Spain for a visiting team. 80,000 Real Madrid fans who had spent the evening making their feelings about Barcelona absolutely clear. Ronaldinho received the ball on the left side, skipped past Sergio Ramos like he was not there, jinked inside Ivan Helguera, finished past Iker Casillas. 1-0 Barcelona. The stadium went quiet. The defenders looked at each other. Ronaldinho was smiling. Then he did it again. Left Ramos in his wake a second time. Found a tight angle that most players would not even consider shooting from. Finished past a completely helpless Casillas. 3-0 Barcelona. Casillas shook his head and shrugged, as if to say, what are we supposed to do about that? And then the Bernabeu stood up and started clapping. 80,000 Real Madrid fans, clapping, for a Barcelona player, in the Santiago Bernabeu. It had happened once before in El Clásico history, when Diego Maradona played there as a Barcelona player. That is the company Ronaldinho belongs to. Ronaldinho later said he did not even notice the standing ovation at that moment. He was too busy celebrating. It was only when the team got back to the dressing room and everybody was talking about it that he went to check it on the television. I will never forget this, because it is very rare for any footballer to be applauded in this way by the opposition fans. In the 2005-06 season, he registered 17 league goals and 15 assists, one of the most complete individual attacking seasons in La Liga history at that time. Barcelona won La Liga again, then won the Champions League in 2006. And sitting in that Barcelona dressing room, watching everything, learning everything, absorbing every single piece of what Ronaldinho did, was a 17-year-old Argentine called Lionel Messi. When Ronaldinho won the Ballon d'Or in 2005, he stood at the ceremony and said something that nobody expected. This award says, I'm the best player in the world, but I'm not even the best player at Barcelona. Leo Messi reminds me more of Maradona. Someday, I will explain that I was at the birth of one of the footballing greats. He won the most prestigious individual award in football, and he used it to tell the world that the kid behind him was going to be even better. That is class that very few people in this sport have ever shown. By 2007, the performances had dipped. The lifestyle had caught up with the genius on the pitch. Pep Guardiola was appointed for the 2008-09 season and made the decision quickly. Ronaldinho would be sold. He left for AC Milan for 21 million. He was 28 years old. Most elite forwards are at their absolute peak at 28. Lionel Messi, the player Ronaldinho had predicted would become the greatest ever, later described the way it ended in one word: what happened was ugly. He didn't deserve that after everything he did for the club, changing Barcelona's history. The way he left was very strange. I wish I could have spent a couple more years with him. But even in the years after Barcelona, there were flashes. In 2013, aged 33, Ronaldinho won the Copa Libertadores with Atletico Mineiro, the first time the club had ever won South America's premier competition. 4 goals and 7 assists across the campaign. And that trophy completed something no other player in football history has ever achieved. Ronaldinho scored 94 goals and provided 70 assists in 207 appearances for Barcelona. He won 97 caps for Brazil and scored 33 goals. He won the Ballon d'Or. He won the World Cup. He won the Champions League. And for 4 years between 2003 and 2006, he made the best defenders on the planet look like they had genuinely never played the game before. But here is what his career actually was, underneath all the numbers. It was the last time football belonged purely to joy. Before Messi and Ronaldo defined the sport by records and trophies and statistics, Ronaldinho reminded a whole generation that the point of watching football is how it makes you feel. He played like it was still the futsal court in Porto Alegre, like the whole point was to make something happen that nobody had ever seen. And he smiled the entire time, like none of it was difficult, like he was just a kid with a ball and some time to kill. 80,000 Real Madrid fans stood up for him in 2005. Not because he won, because of how he won. Because what they saw that night felt like something a human being should not be able to do. The game has changed since then. The high press, the organized defensive lines, the video analysis, the data. All of it has closed the gaps that Ronaldinho used to dance through. The space he needed does not exist in the same way anymore, which means the question the sport has been sitting with since the day he left Barcelona still does not have a clean answer. Will we ever see a player who makes defenders look that helpless again? Not just technically, but with that smile, with that joy, with that absolute certainty that whatever he tried, it was going to work. Drop your answer in the comments, because nobody has settled that one yet.